back with your next class. In today's class, we are going to discuss a very important experiment, that is Hershey and Chase experiment, which is very well accepted and which finally had proven that genetic material is DNA. Alright, so let us see how the experiment was conducted. So see, it was conducted by Alfred Hershey and Martha Chase in 1952, and the experimental specimen that was used for this experiment was a bacteriophage. That means bacterial virus, that is T2-phage. T2-phage, the virus, its host is the bacteria E. coli. Okay, if you know or if you remember, the virus are very much host specific. They would not grow anywhere and everywhere. They would only grow in certain kind of specific host. For T2-phage, the host is E. coli. So it can be cultured only in an E. coli cell. Alright. Now, the basic principle behind the experiment is that DNA, okay, contains phosphorus but not sulfur, and protein would contain sulfur but not phosphorus. Based on this, the whole experiment was conducted. Alright. So now in the experiment of Hershey and Chase, there is a preparation phase in which they had tried to radio level the T2-phage. Okay. How it was done, you see. Hershey and Chase, they prepared two culture media for E. coli. Okay. Say I mark them as 1 and 2, plate 1 and plate 2. In plate 1, suppose the phosphorus that is added to the culture media, the phosphorus is not normal phosphorus, rather radioactive phosphorus. Okay, P32. Normal phosphorus was not added here in plate 1, rather it was radioactive phosphorus added, that is P32. Alright. So of course, the E. coli that would be growing in this culture media, this E. coli will be incorporating the P32, okay, the radioactive phosphorus in their DNA. Because phosphorus is a very important component of DNA. So every time the E. coli would divide, it would undergo DNA replication. It would make copies of the DNA. The newly formed copies will incorporate radioactive P32 in their DNA. That's how all the E. coli in this plate would have radioactive DNA. And the radioactivity that they will show will be of P32. Understood? In a similar manner, in plate 2, another radioactive isotope would be introduced, and that is of sulfur, S35. Okay, so no normal sulfur will be introduced in the plate 2, rather the sulfur added here will be S35. Alright, and that's why protein, as it possesses S35, or protein as it possesses sulfur, the protein of this bacteria in plate 2 would get radio labeled by S35. Understood? So in short, in plate 1, for the E. coli growing, the bacterial DNA will be radio labeled, and for plate 2, the bacteria growing, their protein will be radio labeled. Okay? Understood this? Fine. Now that the preparation, or now finally what would happen, you see. Now in both the plates, T2-phage would be introduced. Okay, and you know very well the virus can only grow inside the E. coli, and it would be using the host machinery for manufacturing its further units. So it will be making new virus particles only by using the host materials, isn't it? So in a virus, if you remember the structure of a bacteriophage, the bacteriophage mainly consists of two things. It is roughly a structure like this. It consists of capsid, and it consists of Now, if you remember the structure of the virus, say a bacteriophage, it roughly looks like this. It has a capsid, which is proteinaceous, and it has the nucleoid, which is DNA. Alright. So here in plate 1, when T2 phage will be inoculated, the new virus particles that will be produced by reproduction, those new virus particles will be incorporating phosphorus, radio-labeled phosphorus in their DNA, isn't it? So here in this plate, all the new virus particles that will be formed, they will be radio-labeled in their DNA, okay? But on the other hand, in case of plate 2, in plate 2, there is S35 present, isn't it? And S or sulfur is going to be present in the protein, right? So here, whatever new virus particles will be formed or will be arising by reproduction, those new virus particles will incorporate S35 where? In their capsid. Because capsid is proteinaceous and sulfur is present in the protein, isn't it? So in that case, here in plate 2, all the virus particles that will be formed, they will be radio-labeled in their capsid. Understood? So in this preparation step, what mainly we are doing is that we are producing or we are trying to form two types of virus for our experiment. One type is that the virus which will be radio-labeled in its DNA by P32, and another is a set of virus which will be radio-labeled in its capsid by S35. Understood? That being done, the preparation step is over. Now we can go into the main experimental steps. Alright. The main experimental steps are 3. First is infection. In infection step, 2 normal E. coli plates, non-radioactive normal E. coli plates are taken. Say I mark them as plate 3 and plate 4. In plate 3, T2 phage will be inoculated from plate 1. Okay, that has P32 radioactivity. And in plate 4, T2 phage will be introduced from plate 2. That means the virus which is radio-labeled in its capsid. Okay, hence infection is caused. In plate 3, infection is caused by the virus which is radio-labeled in its DNA. And plate 4, the inoculation is done for the virus radio-labeled in its capsid. Hence, infection has occurred. That's the first step. Next step. Once the E. coli cells have been caused with infection by T2 phage, these bacterial cells would be agitated. Okay, they would be simply agitated in a blender to break the contact between the virus and the bacteria. So basically, if you remember, whenever a virus tries to enter a bacterial cell, suppose this is a bacterial cell and the virus is trying to infect it. Okay, what will it do? Will the whole virus enter inside the bacterial cell? No. Only its genetic material will enter inside the bacteria, isn't it? And we are here trying to know what is the genetic material, whether it's protein or whether it's DNA. Understood? So, after the infection is caused, of course, the empty virus particle will be left outside the bacterial cell and only the genetic material might have entered inside the bacteria, isn't it? So, in the second step, what we are trying to do is that after infection step is done, after infection has been caused by the virus, the contact between the bacterial cell and the virus particle, that is tried to be broken, so that this empty virus particle and bacterial cells connection would disrupt, they would separate. Understood? That is done by blending. Final step is centrifugation. The virus particles were separated from the bacteria by spinning them in the centrifuge. So now mainly what is done, you see, two vials are taken inside which the bacterial cells are introduced, and Let me mark them as 3 and 4. 3 means here the E. coli has been taken from plate 3. Okay, that means it shows P32 radioactivity, and in this vial it is the E. coli have been taken from plate 4. Okay, so it shows S35 radioactivity. So now when these two are introduced in a centrifuge and are spinned at a very high RPM, what would happen, you see? Two separate distinct phases will be seen in the vials. The heavier particles will settle down at the base of the vial, and the lighter particles will remain suspended in the watery portion. Okay? So this heavier particles that will settle down at the base of the vial, they are known as, or that is known as pellet. Whereas the watery portion which contains the lighter part or lighter particles, that is called the supernatant. Okay? So in vial 3, where there is P32 radioactivity, the P32 radioactivity can be observed in the pellet. Whereas in vial 4, the S35 radioactivity is seen in the supernatant, in the lightly floating part. Okay? S35 will be seen not in the pellet, the heavier particle, rather it will be found in the supernatant. Understood? So that proves what? See, E. coli being the heavier particle, it will settle down where? In the supernatant or in the pellet? Of course, it will be present in the pellet. So, in the pellet, we are able to find which type of radioactivity? P32, isn't it? That means inside the E. coli, P32 radioactivity has been found. Means what? P32, phosphorus. Okay, that is what of the virus could enter inside the E. coli. And P32 is found where? In the viral capsid or in the viral DNA? It's found in the viral DNA, isn't it? That means the viral DNA entered the E. coli, not the protein. The protein is far away. See, it is in the supernatant. Means it is in nowhere in contact with the E. coli. So the viral protein did not enter the E. coli. Rather, the viral DNA entered inside the E. coli. So this finally proves that it is the genetic material. The genetic material is not protein, rather it's DNA. Understood? And this experiment was very well accepted, and hence from here on it was proven that DNA is our genetic material. I hope all of you are clear about it. So that's all for today's class. In the next class we'll start with DNA versus RNA. Thank you.